Good morning, friends and neighbors and loved ones. This is Steve Sparks again with another edition of Celebrating Democracy. So, I left you yesterday with a picture of what my mother was going through in Long Beach, California in 1942. Waiting for my father to come home, and it was kind of hard doing that. It's brought me closer to my mother. It brought me closer to my brother Jerry. Just to see that love back then is really healing to me. So, and I hope it is for you too. So, today I'm going to go someplace else. I'm going to go back to my father at the same time and what was going on while he was on duty with the Harbor Patrol right after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Several months later, he was serving on the Harbor Patrol, and you can imagine how stressful, how traumatized our military men and women were at that time in the local community, and there was martial law, and my father was on patrol around Oahu at the time looking for Japanese submarines. So, it was a tough time. Everybody was out of touch. And while my mother was getting ready with my brother Jerry, who was 1 year old, here's what was going on over in the Hawaiian Islands at the same time. And here's the story. I quote: "While Marcella and Jerry were making arrangements to make a move to San Francisco, Vernon was having a difficult time staying grounded. The bombing of Pearl Harbor and the ensuing weeks and months of martial law took its toll. One night, while out on the town near Waikiki Beach with his shipmates, Vernon got smashed. He and his buddies were already uptight from too much fighting, collateral damage, and stressful patrols around the islands. Vernon was loud and boisterous. He was tall, 6'3", with long arms and huge hands. He was mean and scary. No one dare fuck with Boatswain Sparks. He was known for beating the holy shit out of people who pissed him off. Think of Popeye the Sailor Man. There were a few other rowdy sailors and Marines in the club drinking and raising hell. It really looked and smelled like a fight would be inevitable before midnight. All of the military men at that time lived with a midnight curfew during the war. Liberty was no more than 12 hours at a time. Not every day either. About the time Vernon was tuned up for a fight, a Marine he didn't like came behind him with a sucker punch to the side of his head. Vernon fell off the bar stool to the floor. He was pissed off. Vernon was so angry and drunk that everybody started clearing out while the Boogie Woogie Man tunes played loud. Vernon got up yelling and chasing the Marine antagonist asshole out the door. A huge fight ensued between the two meanest warriors from the U.S. Pacific Fleet. It was an ugly fight outside on the street next to the old Wang Pu Club in Honolulu, not far from the Fort DeRussy on Waikiki Beach. The fighting warriors beat the holy shit out of each other for at least 5 minutes before the Marine MPs arrived at the scene. Both men were arrested and taken to the brig. They were also AWOL because the midnight hour curfew was missed by at least 10 hours. You're probably worried, like me, that Vernon would be in so much trouble that he might be confined to the brig and unable to go home. This would be the final nail in the coffin for Vernon, he thought, with his hands shaking and with severe anxiety. But this was a time for kindness and empathy for the U.S. Navy. Many Marines and sailors, as well as the locals, were deeply traumatized. Following is a quote from Vernon's naval record from that time. It was a godsend. Section Base, Bishop Point, Harbor Patrol, 14th Naval District, Pearl Harbor, Oahu, AWOL from 2000, 2nd July 1942 to 0600, 3rd of July 1942, 10 hours. Tried on July 6, 1942, and confined for a period of 20 days and $20 a month, loss of pay for a period of 4 months per deck court-martial. So on April 2, 1943, he was appointed boatswain mate, or on April 2nd, 1942, he was appointed boatswain mate first class on September 30th, 1942. Jag remitted entirely that part of the sentence involving confinement because he participated in the Battle of Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. In the meantime, Marcella and Jerry packed up and caught a train from Long Beach to San Francisco. The new family home would be 501 Scott Street, San Francisco, California. So I leave that with you to see and think about what the men and women at that time, the military spouses and loved ones, and how they were dealing with a time that was probably one of the most terrible times in American history. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll pick up tomorrow with another story that celebrates democracy. See you later.